Rings of Power Season 2 is quite possibly one of, if not the most disturbingly disgusting transmutations from good storytelling into absolutely abysmal, horrible storytelling that doesn't deserve to see the light of day, which causes the author to turn over in his grave, creating a perpetual source of energy. Because what the writers at this Amazon Rings of Power show have done is taken something so elegantly crafted and carefully put together as the Lord of the Rings appendices and the Silmarillion, the story of the first, second age, leading up to the events that take place in the third age, leading up to the events that take place in the actual Lord of the Rings trilogy, which Tolkien crafted with excellent care and precision. And they have managed to make it quite possibly the most brainless, idiotic, nonsensical story ever told. Because they have not followed the actual story that would have existed within the writings of Tolkien, and instead have relied upon their own skill, and have the gall to claim that they're actually improving on the works that he wrote himself. Such idiocy and such lunacy is an impossibility to disregard when going into review. And that's exactly what I'm doing today. I'm starting my reviews for Season 2. I should have done more reviews for Season 1. However, I was trying to figure out if I could edit something, and I'm not good at editing. I don't have anything like that. I'm not good at that, so I'm just going to play this trailer in the background as I talk about Season 2. Now, I'm not going to be directly correlating anything on screen in this trailer to what I say, okay? Like I said, I'm not editing anything. This is exactly just open speech, what I'm talking about. I'm sure there will be scenes from multiple episodes in this Season 2 trailer. I'm not really paying attention to it. I'm just talking about what I've witnessed within the first episode thus far. I will break it down into multiple videos because I don't have the time during the day typically to do any actual full in-depth review of the full episode. So let's just talk about the first 22 minutes of the first episode, which happens to be the backstory of Sauron. Now, before I go any further, I want you to know exactly what Tolkien told us in his own words, in his own writings. I'm going to use a generalized summary of what happened. He was the lieutenant of Morgoth. That's who Sauron. Sauron was the lieutenant of Morgoth and rose to power in the Second Age by tricking different individuals, the Council, Eregion, into forming rings. 3 for the elves, 7 for the dwarves, 9 for the men. Okay? He tricked them into having those rings made as he made the one ring to rule them all, which created like binding vows, which allowed him the ability to control the other rings, essentially giving him control over the other leaders of Middle-earth and making him the sole dominating force of Middle-earth. Okay? That was his plan. In the opening moments of Rings of Power Season 2, Episode 1, we have what is essentially a completely pointless, completely unnecessary debate between a character that was never in Tolkien's lore called Adar, which Amazon made up themselves for the purpose of making him a random side character. Halbrand was also never something that existed in Tolkien's lore. It was not there, didn't exist. Anatar, the giver of the giver of gifts, right? He was the one that Sauron posed as when he gave rings and gave people the ability to do things. There was immediate suspicion by characters like Galadriel in the Lord of the Rings lore that Tolkien actually wrote. But Anatar, the Lord of Gifts, is the person that Sauron posed as. Does that mean that Sauron actually could have been Adar or could have been any of these other characters that they've made up for the story, for the show? No. Because it was very clearly put out by Tolkien in his lore, written into the very fabric of the story, that it was Anatar, the Lord of Gifts. Not Adar, not some random guy on a fishing boat named Halbrand, okay? No. They also never crossed paths on the ocean because Galadriel decided that she was going to swim across the ocean on her lonesome and happened upon a wrecked raft that just so happened to have the person she was looking for over 1,000 years. Absolute nonsense. Complete and utter nonsense. But let's go ahead and get back into the actual second season, episode 1. The opening. He's having a debate with Adar. He's talking about this stuff. He's going, "Hey, we can totally do this. We can be heroes. I can lead you orcs into the new age. You won't have to have people look at you like monsters anymore." Why is Sauron debating? Sauron is the lieutenant of Morgoth. He is the most powerful being on Middle-earth apart from Morgoth. Sauron's voice alone was enough to make Saruman the White, the most powerful wizard at that point in time in regards to the story, tremble and fall to his knees. Sauron is no joke to play with. There's literally no reason for Sauron to be up there. "Oh, you should vote for me as king. You should vote for me as ruler." And then the orcs actually have the ability to gang up on him and beat him? No. I'm sorry, even if you just watched the movies, even if all you did was watch the movies and not read the books, the appendices, the Silmarillion, or anything else, you would have to at least acknowledge that Sauron is able to wipe out entire hordes of enemies with a single swat of his weapon. He's not going to be taken down by a couple of orcs. And these are no average enemies, okay? These are people who are from Numenor. These are people from the Elvish kingdom. These are humans who fought alongside each other. These are dwarves. These are the entire armies of Middle-earth banding together, and he's wiping away all of them with swats of his mace, with swats of his weapon, easily. If you're watching just the movies, that's not counting into the fact the massive amount of power that he wields and shows in the books. So there's no reason why he would be going into a debate against another character that was never in the Lord of the Rings story. No! That's nonsense. That's not how Tolkien wrote it. Stop mocking the absolute pinnacle of perfect lore writing that Tolkien had. Goodness gracious. But if that's not bad enough, they decide, "Oh yeah, we're going to vote for you as the king, as our new ruler, and we're going to give you Morgoth's crown." Now, mind you, Morgoth was probably a good 20 to 30 feet tall. He's a pretty big guy. So why is it that this crown that he has happens to be exactly shaped to be the perfect size for Sauron's head? And it's also shaped in a spiked manner. And as he's getting crowned by his political opponent, he looks up at him and gazes at the guy as he stares at the crown as well. And then the guy, while standing there, flips the crown around, and it holds there for a good second and a half, I would say, probably 2 seconds or so, where he's just holding the crown with the spikes pointed downwards. And then he immediately jabs it into Sauron's back. Immediately. Like, He has the crown, Sauron looks up at him, he bows his head, and then he stabs Sauron in the back with the crown. At this point in time, all the orcs gang up on Sauron. They start punching him, they start kicking him, they start stabbing him. He's able to throw like 2 or 3 of them away, but other than that, he's kind of just like getting dogged by these orcs. He's getting dogged, absolutely dogged by these orcs right now. Just gets smashed into the ground. They just Caesar the crap out of him. They stab him a billion times. They just keep stabbing him. And then Adar comes up and he's going to finish the job. And then what happens is Sauron explodes. I can't make this stuff up, guys. Sauron explodes. The force of the explosion, which could be seen from miles away, as depicted by the actual show. Should have knocked everyone back and killed everyone in the room, but everyone was just fine. The orcs are totally fine. Adar was fine. They didn't move an inch. Except, Sauron disappeared. He turned into black goo. He sunk down into the crevices of the floor, and then I'm guessing this has to be the first story of the building that they're in, because he sinks into the rocks below the floor, which are made of stone. So either there's just this single-story cave-like room on top of a mountain fortress that they have, or the writers just forgot that they were talking about this character doing this debate in a peak of a building somewhere. I'm betting it's the second one that I just mentioned, because the writers are idiots. And they have no idea what they're writing about. They have no idea what they're talking about. They have no idea what they're saying or what they're making or what they're implying with their absolute dog crap writing. But yeah, so he sinks down into the crevices of the floor, and then he sinks down into the rocks. You got some black goo, and you spend about 5-7 minutes watching this black goo just kind of squirm about, roll around on the ground, and fall into each crevice and crack. He comes upon a rat, and he turns into venom all of a sudden. He just shoots tendrils out and starts eating the rat. And then, he just keeps falling out of rock crevices. He plops out of a mountain like the mountain was taking a dump. He slides down this really snowy mountain. He crawls with his black gooey form for a couple hundred miles. I'm not sure. It doesn't really explain how long he crawled for or how long he was dead for. Had to be at least a couple hundred years, because it's been like 1,000 of Galadriels searching for him. He happens to be run over by a random woman who was carting along with what appears to be an empty cart with a horse. I'm not sure where she was going or what she was doing. It's kind of stupid and silly, but that's kind of par for the course with this stupid, silly show. He sneaks up into the cart. You hear a scream, and then the horse runs off. Now, you would think that the horse running off meant that the horse took the cart with it, and then you just see the horse and the cart running away. No. Now, apparently, this woman who was getting pulled by the horse on her cart happened to not strap down the horse careful enough so that the horse was able to run away. They can't even get that simple thing right. What, did Sauron loosen the straps as he killed the woman and let the horse go? What's going on? You're telling me that the writers are so dumb, so incapable of writing a single moment of good television, they can't even take into account the fact that the horse had to be strapped to the cart to be pulling it. And instead it just runs off. They can't even get the horse right. They can't get something that actually exists right. No wonder they can't write fiction. I apologize for getting a little bit agitated and upset over this. I'm just confused as to how anyone working on this show happens to have a job in writing for movies or television when they can't even get a horse running away right. Anyways, Sauron steals the woman's clothes, and he's perfectly fine now. He goes from being a black mass with a indiscriminate form into being a fully fledged, long-haired, dress-wearing, cross-dressing white guy. He gets picked up by a couple of stragglers. There's this old guy he becomes friends with. And then they start talking, and he's like, I'm going to go back to where I just came from, even though they tried to kill me. I'm just going to go back, and they're going to accept me now. I'm just going to be like a nice guy and everything like that. No big deal. No big deal. We're going to be fine. I'm going to go back, and they're not going to kill me at all. They're not going to try to kill me a second time. I have faith. I have faith that the orcs that just killed me and seizured me will be totally fine with me coming back and just having a nice old chat with them. I'm sure that everything's going to work out just fine. That's Sauron's mindset right now. Adar, yeah, surely he hasn't actually taken over the orcs right now. Surely the situation is much better off than when I left. Surely the guys that just tried to kill me aren't actually going to try to kill me a second time. Oh, don't be silly. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. There's not a thing to worry about. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. Nothing to worry about, bro. We'll be fine. Anyways, the old man says, yeah, that's stupid, bro. You probably shouldn't go and do that. Why don't you come with us? And Sauron, the evil lord of darkness that was the lieutenant of Morgoth, and is responsible for fooling all of Middle-earth into nearly being completely under his dominion, a clever, crafty individual to be certain, just like, he just goes, okay, I won't go back and do my normal Sauron, Lord of Darkness thing anymore. I'll just go along with you random people that I happen to come across. Anyways, he becomes long-term friends with this old guy. He travels with this group of people for a while. And then as things go on, we get closer and closer to Season 1's opening episode, or Season 1, Episode 2, where Galadriel happens to be found by Sauron in the middle of the ocean, floating on a raft. And Galadriel happens to find a raft in the middle of the ocean after jumping off and rejecting heaven. Wow, how freaking stupid is this show? Anyways, this all happens, this all goes down, this all takes place, there's an evil sea monster that comes around and crushes the boat. Sauron and a couple of stragglers happen to survive. They float onto some wrecked portions of the boat, and that's it. They meet Galadriel in the middle of the ocean, and we are finally caught up with the flashback of Sauron from Season 1, from before the events of Season 1 occurred, to the current Season 2, to the current events of Season 1 into Season 2. That's 22 minutes of the show. 22 minutes of the show, which just shows flashbacks of what happened, like a recap of the first season. Sauron in a political debate against Adar for the orcs to join him, which is something that would never happen. Him getting Caesared by all the orcs, which is something that couldn't happen because he's too powerful for the orcs. A complete mockery of the crown of Morgoth, which also had the Silmarils in it. Okay, so that's another thing that they just completely reject the lore about. Him wandering through rock crevices as black goo, getting run over by a cart, killing a random woman, a horse somehow unstrapping itself and running off, and then him befriending people, trying to turn away from his evil deeds, and then he meets Galadriel and immediately goes back to being evil again. Yep. That was 22 minutes that they felt was a necessary portion of the show to develop, because it would be impossible. It would be impossible for us to go any further without explaining the motivations of the character. See, he's not really that bad of a guy. I mean, sure, he wants to dominate and rule over the entire realm of Middle-earth and leave no room for free will, the ability for people to choose their own path, their destiny. He wants to corrupt all that's good and holy in the world. But yeah, he's not that bad of a guy. He's not that bad. No, look at that. He's actually a pretty good guy. He had a debate and he got assassinated. Look at him. He's a good guy. He's a nice guy. He really is. He's wonderful. Yeah. I can't stand this show. I can't stand the people writing this show. They have such a disdain for the basic Tolkienian good versus evil story that has been so clearly defined, so clearly explained, written out, so clearly laid out, a blueprint for everything put on page for them to look at. And they have the gall to say, yeah, we're doing it better. I just explained to you the first 22 minutes of the first episode of the second season of this show. Why it even has a second season, I can't understand. But if anything that I made, that anything I said made any logical sense or made any sense according to the lore of Tolkien, I say again, I will restate what I said at the beginning of the video. Yes, I'll be breaking down every episode into subsections so that I can review it more fully. In the beginning of the video, bro, I made the very, very simple statement as to how he came to power, how Sauron rose to power. He was the lieutenant of Morgoth. After Morgoth's defeat, he crafted a plan where he was going to pose himself as Anatar, the Lord of Gifts. Okay? He tricked the Region. He made the ring. He tricked the elves, the dwarves, and the men, taking separate rings. 3 rings for the elves, 7 rings for the dwarves, 9 rings for the men. While he did this, he crafted the one ring in the fires of Mount Doom, and that's all that we know about his rise to power. The ring would give him complete dominion over the realms of men, dwarves, and elves. He would essentially have full control over all of Middle-earth. All of it. Okay? Very simple. This show says, nah, none of that actually happened. He tried to go into political debate against a character called Adar, got assassinated by the orcs, wound up on a boat in the middle of the ocean, and happened to find Galadriel, who also happened to re-inspire his desire to go back to the dark side. Great stuff. I can't wait to see more of this. I hate this show. I hate this show so much. It's a complete mockery of Tolkien storytelling. It's a complete mockery of Lord of the Rings. It's a complete mockery of everything that J.R.R. Tolkien wrote. It's a complete mockery of the story that was carefully and meticulously plotted out by someone who was infinitely smarter than these idiots who are writing this show. This is terrible. This is awful. I don't know why I'm watching it. Actually, I do. It's because I want to make content about it. And it's also just cathartic to talk about how much I hate something that's this disgustingly evil. And I do mean that. It is an evil show. It's an evil show. It's a show that hates the original good versus evil Tolkienian storytelling so much that it has to recontextualize it by making Tolkien the bad guy for writing Sauron and the orcs as bad guys. The bad guys of the story. Oh, they can't actually be bad. They're not actually bad. Oh, don't believe what Tolkien wrote. We're doing it better. Man. No, you're not. You're not. Shut up. Anyways, that's going to do it for this video. I have no idea how long it's been. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like, comment down below your thoughts, share this video out there with your friends, subscribe, and hit the bell notification icon. I hope you guys have a great day and a great rest of the week.